Aloha, welcome everyone. It's wonderful to see you back. For those of you who are coming back, and welcome to a couple of new faces. At our last workshop, we shared tools and strategies on developing persistence and resilience. And today we'll explore financial literacy as an important life skill leading to freedom of choice and economic wellness, which are, of course, key components to resilience. When I think about financial literacy, I think about our grandmother, who was a banker. In a way, she ended up becoming the head of escrow, the first female vice president of the Bank of Hawaii. And she always emphasized the importance of financial independence and stability for women. She felt that that was crucial for well-being. And our mother emphasize the social value of financial literacy for women around the world. She was sort of a pioneer in microfinance, and there were few models of financial success and few opportunities to learn financial literacy. And so many women during the time of her work would wonder, who's going to take care of me? How am I going to take care of myself? But by being part of these microfinance programs and developing financial literacy, these women were able to gain confidence in their ability to contribute. They were able to feed and preserve the health of their families and contribute meaningfully to community. And in so doing, they built equity, they increased safety, they made trafficking and domestic violence less likely. It is clear that women across the globe have experienced more economic and health vulnerabilities in recent years during this pandemic, resulting in fear and anxiety. And so this is really an important time to rally around our global girls, to teach them these skills so that the women that they become can close the gap, and so that women in many frontline communities can remain healthy, sheltered, and strong. So with that, I am so pleased to get this session started. Remember to please add any questions that you have into chat, and we will save them for the end. So as an opening, I'd like to have you kind of respond to this question that is up on the first slide. What is one thing that you are saving money towards or would like to save money towards? So put your answer in chat, or feel free to raise your hand and you can share with the whole group. Giving to others, M8, sending my children to college. 2 people wrote that. Oh, 3. Moving to a warmer place. My daughter's financial independence, furthering education, saving for PhD, my children's education, a holiday, to buy a home. Wonderful. I think that, you know, this is in keeping with who you are as people, that you think about yourselves, but also those who will come after. It's clear. Thank you very much for these responses, and I appreciate that you mentioned donation. Doing well for ourselves can enable us to assist others. With that all in mind, take it away, Heather.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you everybody for joining today. Really appreciate your time. And today, I'll briefly go through the agenda of what we'll be doing. And we're going to be talking about, again, financial education, financial literacy, and why does this matter? What is important about this particular topic when we think about life skills and education? And we'll briefly touch on an overview of Roomtree's Financial Education Life Skills Club project. And one of my colleagues is going to get into deeper on that. we'll be talking about the focus of the curriculum, some of our measurement results to give you a flavor of how we do measure. We'll do some sample activities, and we'll also hear from some of the girls. We'll watch a video about one of the girls who has participated in some of these activities, as well as talk about a story about another participant. And then we'll have time for some questions and answers at the end. So I really appreciate everybody engaging actively in this, and we look forward to learning from your insights as well. So very briefly, for folks who have participated in some of these sessions over the last months, this slide looks very familiar. I'm not going to linger very much on this, just to say for those folks who are new to these sessions today, welcome. We are thrilled you've joined us. And when we send out the slides, you can take a little bit more time to learn a little bit more about Room to Read's work more broadly. But today we're going to focus primarily on the next slides that follow, getting into the depth of financial education, financial literacy. So next slide. So why do we focus on financial education, and what is it? I often hear people talk about financial literacy, financial education, and we do distinguish between these two things. So financial education is looking at learning information about financial concepts and basic money management skills. And we frame this into our girls' education work with adolescent girls to help support those adolescents to strengthen their own knowledge about financial concepts so they can make more informed decisions about their own personal finances. And some of the topics we focus on are savings, spending, budget, loans, interest, banks, debt, and really understanding, what do these mean? What are the concepts? How do they interact? How do they associate with one another? And we provide curriculum that's focused on financial education so girls can achieve a foundational level of financial literacy. And financial literacy is it means that they're able to have the attitudes, knowledge, and skills to manage their own financial resources responsibly and with their own agency and effectively, which is really, really important to achieving a lifetime of financial well-being. So our programs are designed to help support that financial literacy in the girls by providing financial education curriculum. And with that, I am handing this over to my colleague, Linda, to get into quite a bit more depth on some of these concepts.
Great, thank you, Heather. Thank you. And I'm glad that Heather first reviewed like what we mean when we say financial education, and then also what we mean by, when everybody says financial literacy or being financially literate. I think it's great that we all kind of have a base understanding of what that means. And I want to turn to, as we dig into it, I want to turn to looking at why financial literacy matters. So why do we even care? And I think it's interesting to first flag that worldwide, it seems like we're actually all pretty terrible with our own financial literacy. Many studies have consistently put the worldwide financial literacy rate among adults at around just 30 to 33%. So 1 in 3 adults could understand basic financial concepts and money management. So that's quite low. When you think about it, that means just about 70% of the world's adult population are financially illiterate. So that's pretty dismal. And when you break that figure down of who is actually financially literate, and you look underneath that surface, there's a clear gender gap that begins to emerge. A 2014 Standard & Poor's survey on global financial literacy, and this was one of the first truly comprehensive global studies on financial literacy. This survey found that 35% of men compared to 30% of women are financially literate. And that the study found that this gender gap between men and women were generally persistent across both advanced and emerging economies. So really no difference between a high income or low income country. Women just lag behind men in terms of financial literacy across the majority of countries. And the graph that you see here shows the results, just some sample results from that survey. And it shows the results of the G20 countries. You can see the men who are financially literate are represented by the blue bars. And that means that they answered 3 out of 4 basic financial questions correctly. And these questions related to things like numeracy, compound interest, inflation, and so forth. And then in contrast, you can see that the financially literate women are shown in the red bars. And then the green bar then represents that financial literacy gap between them. And so you can see from this graph, and in general from the study, the vast majority of the G20 countries and beyond, there's a very clear gap in financial literacy that is biased against women. And from that same S&P survey, it wasn't just that women were found to be lagging behind men in financial knowledge, but that the gender gap persisted across different financial behavior as well. And so the study found things like women save and borrow money less than men do. Women are unlikely to be able to come up with emergency funds than men are. And women are much less likely to engage in long-term financial planning or even have financial goals. And probably what I think is the most telling, women more than men were likely to report feeling less confident about their own financial knowledge. So really across the board, there's a financial literacy gap between men and women. And a lot of this is tied directly to the gender-specific barriers that women face. Women and girls are particularly vulnerable to financial insecurity. And this really results from a lot of structural inequities, like unequal earnings and income over their lifetime as compared to men, unpaid home labor, interruptions in employment due to child rearing, and laws prohibiting women from inheritance or owning property. So all of these structural inequalities are further exacerbated by gender-specific challenges that women and girls face, such as being vulnerable to gender-based violence, early marriage, school dropout, and living in poverty. So taken as a whole, there's a very strong gender dimension to financial literacy, and that's really what's driving the gap between men and women. And I think it's important to have that gendered lens, because then it really helps us understand why financial literacy is so important, that it can be really understood as an essential life skill for girls. Financial literacy gives girls greater power in controlling their lives by helping them plan, set goals, and make smart decisions with their money, and to mitigate some of these gender barriers that put them at greater financial vulnerability. So being able to have that financial education in adolescence can really help them overcome some of those gender barriers to the economic gains in adulthood. And the benefits of financial literacy for girls are many, and that includes things like just being able to secure individual financial well-being and stability. And we also know that financially literate girls pass on their knowledge within their families, to their friends, to others, and they can start applying these skills to managing their own household finances, which is a great practice for when they're older and have their own families, because then families are able to save, to budget, and to plan for things like emergencies. And that means that they're going to experience less stress and can demonstrate greater resiliency from health setbacks or other family crises. So financial literacy leads to healthier families and households. And when you have financially literate citizens, particularly women, who have been traditionally severely underserved by the formal financial sector, they're more likely to access and utilize these financial services and participate more formally in society and the economy. And that means a country that has more financially literate consumers and citizens can foster real economic growth and make some really big gains in poverty reduction. So in summary, financial literacy leads to empowered girls, which leads to empowered citizens, which leads to stronger countries and economies. And so in service to this, and to mitigate that gender dimension that we talked about, those gender barriers that unjustly put girls at greater financial vulnerability, Room to Read intentionally builds in some financial education content within our existing Girls Life Skills curriculum. And it's also why we've been excited to partner with Credit Suisse to deepen and expand those financial offering to girls. And I'll talk a little bit more about that partnership. So looking specifically at the Financial Education Initiative for Girls that we have been implementing, we call it Financial Education and Life Skills Clubs, or FELS for short. And these are voluntary after-school clubs that allow girls to build and really practice their financial literacy skills. And these clubs have been designed to supplement our existing life skills curriculum and to expand upon financial concepts that they've already been introduced to. And this first phase of our project is technically a 3-year cycle, stretched to 4 with the pandemic. So it runs from 2018 to this year, 2021. And it's being implemented in 2 of our program countries at the moment, Sri Lanka and Tanzania. And this partnership, our Fellows Club, is made possible through Credit Suisse, who is an financial investment bank and institution. And they launched a very unique financial education for girls initiative in 2014. And it's a focus on increasing girls' financial capability and awareness of their social and economic rights to transform their lives and communities. And they have gathered other partners. You can see here on the slide, Plan International, Athlitude International, and Rims Reed, which we joined the partnership in 2018, the start of our Fellows Project. So we're working together to implement financial education for girls. It's through this unique convening that we're able to pilot this project. The specific objectives of our Fellows programs are threefold. We want girls to be able to increase their knowledge of financial concepts, but we also want them to feel confident about managing and making decisions about their personal finances. And we also really want to encourage girls to share that financial information that they've learned with others, with their peers, with their family members, and others in the community. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry there. There's a repeated slide. I'll just share quickly the design of our Fellows Clubs at a high level. In year 1, we're really focused on just delivering core financial curriculum sessions. So that's the emphasis is on building that foundational knowledge for girls on financial concepts. And then year 2, we focus on supplemental activities, so financial projects and activities that give girls applied opportunities for real world learning. So there's a lot of hands-on projects, and we do things like exposure visits to a bank, inviting guest speakers to come in, but it's really building off of the concepts that they already learned in year 1. And then finally, in year 3, we focus on leadership and sustainability, where we have girls in turn teach their younger peers some of that same financial information that they've learned and share that same financial education to the broader community as well. And that's done through things like organizing a poster campaign within their school or in the local community, performing street drama, putting on debates, and so forth. So I want to share just a look at our curriculum so you understand like what our Fellows program actually does and how we're actually designed. So we have 2 sets of curriculum that we implement, and they target 2 different sets of grade levels. So the first is a lower secondary curriculum, which is focused on savings and basic financial concepts. And in Sri Lanka, this is delivered to girls in grades 6 through 8 and grades 5 through 7 in Tanzania. And these sessions are on average about 60 minutes long. And then our upper secondary curriculum focuses on enterprise and entrepreneurship. And this is for girls in grades 9 through 10 and 12 in Sri Lanka and grades 9 through 12 in Tanzania. And these sessions, because the content is a lot more complex, is on average about 2 hours. And this is just a deeper dive, a look at our curriculum. This is our lower secondary curriculum, again, that's focused on savings. And so some of the topics include, you can see here in year 1, things like needs and wants, saving responsibly, sources of income. And then in year 2, if you recall, that's when we really focus on the activity and project-based learning. And it really complements the topics I've already learned in that first year. And so you'll see that some of the session titles are the same. It's just because they're not actually the same. It's just that they're just building off of that same concept. And then you'll notice that we have more sessions in year 1, again, because we're trying to build that foundational level of knowledge. And year 2 is more project-based, so there's fewer sessions. And I wanted to show you a sample of what one of our activities look like within our savings curriculum. So on this slide, you can see a worksheet / mix and match game that we play in a session called Saving Responsibly. And this is where we have girls look at different methods of savings, and they have to identify which of these is the most secure way to save, and then which are the most risky way to save. And so they have to decide a number 1 through 4 by filling in this worksheet. We've also seen a variation of this game, really fun, where facilitators have marked different corners of a room with the same numbers, one being most risky and one being most safe and 4 being most risky. And then they read out the savings method. So they may say under the bed, and then the girls have to run to the corner where they think if that's the most safe way to save or unsafe way. So it's quite fun and engaging, and I think our facilitators have done a really great job in kind of varying the activities. But just wanting to share with you a very quick, easy activity that we do with girls to talk about savings. And then within our enterprise, which is our upper secondary curriculum, here's a look at some of the sessions. In year 1, I think you'll see it a lot more complex than the savings curriculum. In year 1, we cover topics like, how does entrepreneurship and business relate to me? Choosing an enterprise idea, identifying our customer, and so on. This first year is actually really focused on introducing girls to the concept of a business plan. And actually each of these sessions takes a piece of that business plan. So they're actually filling out a business plan as they go throughout the year. So by the end of the year, they've had like a full business plan on, I guess I can call like an imaginary or a fake enterprise business or topic that they've chosen for that year. And then in year 2, again, this is where we're focused more on the hands-on project-based learning. So in year 2, we have a lot more interesting activities where we organize things like an entrepreneur camp. So they're able to apply some of the things that they learned in year 1, kind of in a really intensive setting. And we do something like a market day, where they actually have spent that year executing on a small business idea or a project in groups, and they get to showcase that in a market day. My final presentation to the community. And in the next couple of slides, I have a few pictures from that market day to give you a sense of what the girls have done. But I wanted to just quickly show you a sample activity from our enterprise, our older curriculum. This is from a session on advertising and adding value. And what you see here is what we call the marketing mix template. So we ask girls to think about the 5 P's of marketing. So things like product, price, and place. And we have them fill in all of these questions for their business idea, for their particular enterprise idea that they have selected within their groups. So you can see a little bit more complex than the savings curriculum because this is for older girls. And so it's a little bit more sophisticated. So let me show you the pictures from the market day. The first row that you can see here is pictures from Sri Lanka. And again, Market Day is kind of the culmination of year 2, where they've kind of gone through the whole business plan, learning and working on a business idea within their groups. This is it come to life into fruition. And so that first row is Sri Lanka, and you can see that they've organized some sort of food stall where they're selling a particular type of snack. Then this was held at the school, so you can see teachers, other students, and parents are being invited to come in and partake. And I just want to point out this last picture on the right, you can see here, this is a lot of money that a student is holding, and they insisted that we take this picture at the end of the day because they were just very proud of their efforts. And then that bottom row is from Tanzania, and you can see a lot of the different products that the girls, the business groups ended up making. And I think this is so adorable. If you see this little girl in the picture on the left holding the microphone, she is currently in the middle of doing a sales or a marketing pitch for her group's product, which I believe, as you can see there, these are doormats or door rugs made out of fabric scraps. And so she's pitching to the audience, to myself and a bunch of other people about why we should buy their product. And it was a really fun activity. And the other pictures you can see, some of the girls got real creative. They partnered with like a bottling company and actually printed out little labels and to sell hot sauce. And I wish I showed another picture up close where you can see the label. It just says their school name. It's really cute. It says something like Kiromo Secondary School. And you can see they're selling other slippers and other products. So this is examples of the different market days that took place in Sri Lanka and Tanzania. Again, it's just a fun way to bring the whole community together, bring the school together and share what they've learned, and even to try to sell some of their products. And I will say, I was here in Tanzania in person. I took some of these pictures and I was just so impressed by the creativity and the entrepreneur spirit of the girls. They were just so proud of themselves. And I will say they pitched me quite hard on all of their products, and I ended up buying a lot of things that I probably didn't need and things that I couldn't take home on a plane. But how can I resist? And of course, I would want to support their projects. Oh, and actually, that reminds me, I have a few of those products here with me in person. I wonder if you can see this. So I'll hold it up. Can you see that? Oh, I'm disappearing. So this is a necklace, a bead. So an example of some of the products. So this is a jewelry making business from one of the girls. And then this I thought was really neat. You can see this. This is a reusable cloth sanitary napkin with some Velcro straps, which were very, very popular item actually among the adolescent girls, which was great because it's a little bit of education to their peers as well, and also selling a product that girls really need. So I thought that was really like entrepreneurial and right on the money, because meeting a need, meeting a gap, right? That's what we're teaching the girls. So that I just wanted to share has been some of the products or the outcomes of our market day and our enterprise curriculum, which has been, as you can see, very hugely popular. Our FELS program in general in both Sri Lanka and Tanzania has been really well received. So I want to turn now a little bit to measurements, to talk about how we measure, just that and share at a very high level how we've been tracking and measuring things in our FELS program. One thing we focus on is output measurements. I know we talked about that earlier on in this series, and that is for us really geared more for regular program monitoring. So just so that we know that things are on track in general. And this would be things like the number of girls participating in FELS, the number of sessions conducted, or the number of teachers we've trained, and even things like session attendance, who's attending the sessions, both our parent meetings and then the FELS sessions themselves. And so with this kind of output measurement, we're able to share results like this chart that you see in the slide. And that's the cumulative number of girls and schools that have been reached through our FELS program through 2020, where the last year where we have confirmed verified data. And then in terms of outcome measurement, where we try to now look at the impact of our program, like, is it working? What's going? What are the girls learning? So we have been implementing a CAP survey, also called a Knowledge Attitude Practices Survey. This survey is administered to a sample of participants, both at baseline, so the beginning of the program, and then again at endline, the end of each year of our 3-year program. And some of the survey items or questions we ask, that's just on a kind of a agree, don't know type of scale, is something like saving money is something only adults do, or a business makes profit when income is less than expenses, or gender attitudes around men are better suited to have their own businesses than women. So these are the types of items that we're asking in the CAP survey. And I just wanted to show you here so some results. So some of the most dramatic results, I selected kind of the most compelling results that we saw in year one, which was from 2018 from the CAP survey. So you can see that we asked girls a bunch of financial questions, and the lowest score they could get was 0%, meaning they got nothing right, and 100%, meaning they got all of the questions right. And you can see from the graph on the left, the green bars, this was with older girls, Tanzania girls, grade 11 and grade 12, that their average score of those girls at baseline was just 11% on that quiz. And then when we did the same test again to that same sample of girls, just at the very end of that same year, their average score sat up to 78%. And that's huge in a year's time. And then similarly with the graph on the right, the yellow bars, you can see this is where we ask girls just about their entrepreneurship knowledge. And at baseline, you can see the average score girls scored was 22%. And by the end of that same year, that score improved to 73%. So again, huge gains. And I picked this one to show because I think it was the most dramatic. In general, we saw positive gains in Sri Lanka and Tanzania across in that first year. Then I want to turn to 2019 a little bit just to share results. So we did the CAP again. And we found that the results, the returning girls, they continue to show small but still positive improvements in knowledge and attitudes in that second year. But really, not surprisingly, the biggest gains that we saw in that second year were among the new girls joining, right? Because they started at a lower baseline level of knowledge than the returning girls. So some of the things that surfaced from our outcomes measurement in 2019, we found that girls were reported being more confident about their decision making related to their personal finances, and that girls in general were just actively managing their finances more. So for example, we found that 9% more girls were putting their savings now into banks than they had been previously. And we also learned that girls were definitely sharing their financial knowledge with their peers and family members. And so we observed all kinds of what we call positive spillover effects, where parents and teachers were then modifying their own savings behavior or even applying some of the entrepreneurial knowledge that their daughters had shared with them within their own small businesses. And we'll share some stories about that towards the end of our session. So we were seeing a lot of this spillover effects with girls, not just the girl being impacted, but that she was helping others around her. And then I think it was also interesting that we found in the short term, the biggest impact of our FELS program in the short term was that the program was able to help girls smooth economic shocks at the household level. And what we mean by that, I can give you an example, is that, when girls started saving little by little, that meant that they could use that money to buy their own school materials. For example, when parents couldn't afford it, they were able to buy their own food and even to help their family to buy food or in other emergencies when the family didn't have that money. So they were just able to kind of, in the immediate short term, really kind of smooth some of those economic strains for their family. And I just want to mention that in addition to this CAP survey, we also did a process evaluation in both years. And the process evaluation looks at whether our program was implemented in the way that it was supposed to be implemented, right? So we said we're doing 11 sessions. Did you actually, implement 11 sessions? If you're saying the teachers are conducting this, did the teachers actually conduct that? And then so we're looking at the process. And then we, from that, we're trying to figure out, then did we meet the expected outcomes that we had anticipated? So that's kind of a brief, really high level look at Roomtree's outcome measurement within the FELS program. And I will say that we plan to do the CAP survey in 2020, but that was canceled because of the pandemic. So we haven't been able to get more updated data than 2019. We do have plans to administer the CAP survey in this final year of our program this year. We'll see if that pans out. Who knows, with some of the school closures and the delays we're seeing around the world. I just want to say, if this is of interest to you, I know I went quickly through our measurement. If measurement is of interest to you, please flag it for us so that we know, because we can definitely continue this conversation and do a deeper dive on measurement in our follow-up discussion next month for sure. So if that's something that you want to dig into, let us know, because we're happy to spend more time on that. Okay. With that, I think you've gotten like a full download of our FELS Club project now. And so we want to engage you all in a fun activity. I want to walk you through actual activities from our enterprise curriculum, so our older girls curriculum. And you can see here, this includes an icebreaker activity and then 2 drawing exercises that are focused on customer identification and branding and advertising. And I'll just say up front for this, you may want to quickly look around and grab some paper, some pens, marker, crayons, anything that helped you to color and to draw. But I'll start first with the icebreaker activity, and this is called Who Am I? And this is a game where we have girls play, in which you're probably familiar with this game, where we write down the names of famous people on pieces of paper or a note card, and that piece of paper is either taped to somebody's forehead or their back so that that person can't see who's written on their own individual card. And then we have the girls mingle around and ask each other questions to try to get clues and information to figure out who that famous person is that they have taped to their body. And so we're going to do a slightly modified version. I actually think it's kind of a reversed version of this icebreaker activity right now, because I already have a famous person identified in my mind. So I'm going to have all of you try to guess who that famous person is that I'm thinking of by asking me questions. And I'll say that you're not limited to yes or no questions. So really think about what you might want to ask me to try to guess who the famous person is that I'm thinking about. And I'll take 2 to 3 questions. So please, I'll ask for a few volunteers to raise your hand and then call out your question. I see Sharona, is that right?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So what does your person do for their profession?
This person most currently was a student and is advocating for girls' education.
Am I allowed to guess who it is?
Let's take one more question. I think it's going to be very easy to guess. Does somebody have another question you can ask me to try to guess who I'm thinking of? Allison, yes, I see your hand raised. Oh, you're on mute.
Is this person under 30?
Yes, this person is under 30. A few other questions before I think you all might know already, but I want to get a few more example questions in. Anyone else? What types of question can you ask me to try to guess who this person is? Anyone else? I can't see necessarily okay. Jessica, I think you have your hand raised.
I do. What part of the world is your person from?
My person is originally from Pakistan. Does that help a lot of people? So somebody want to guess now? Maybe Sharona, because you were so excited with just one question, you already knew who this was.
Somebody put it in the chat as well, but it's Malala
okay.
Yousafzai.
Yes, it's Malala. Great job. I hope you enjoyed that quick, short, fun game. And the reason why we played that game, just so you don't think it's just random that we did this, because this is the same activity that we do with girls as an introduction to our session on understanding our customer. Because the types of questions that you asked me in trying to figure out who my famous person is are the same types of questions that we want you to keep in mind when we're thinking about who our customer is for our small business or enterprise project, right? We want to know similar things about, just like you asked me, what does your person do? Where do they live? How old are they? Are they female or male? So those are the types of questions, right? That when the girls are planning this activity, they're asking those types of questions. And it's a way for us to really get their brains flowing and the juices, really thinking as an introduction to our session on understanding our customer. And it's easing them to think, to take something that may be intimidating when you say, who's your customer? We can ease them into the idea by saying, hey, those same questions that you just asked each other in that icebreaker game are the same types of questions we want you to think about when you're trying to identify who your customer is for your enterprise project. So that was just a fun I wanted to set up to explain to you all, like that's an icebreaker activity that we do. And now I want to lead us into our next activity when we're actually going to be identifying our customer. So at the top of the slide here, you'll see I've listed out some example small business projects that you're going to use to do the next two activities. The first is raising chickens to sell eggs, and that's just an example business. It's a case study actually from our curriculum. It's not something that a girl's actually doing, but the rest of those on the list are actual business ideas that girls are implementing. So making, as you saw, the reusable cloth sanitary napkins, offering hair braiding or styling services, and jewelry making, earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and those types of things. So what I want you to do is to select one of these businesses, either from this list that you see here, or come up with your own business idea. And we very much welcome that. We welcome their creativity. So think of a business, so select a business idea. And then we want you to draw a picture of who your potential customer is based on your business, right? Who are you trying to target? And keeping in mind the same types of questions that were being asked in that icebreaker activity around, again, I listed them out here to get you started. What do they do? Where do they live? Where do they work? What do they like? So thinking about those questions, think about the characteristics of your primary customer, right? So what kind of customer would be interested in your product? And so I'm going to give you maybe 3 to 5 minutes just on your own time to draw. Again, get some paper, some markers and pens, and draw who your customer is for your business. I'll just quickly point out that the picture that you see on that slide there of those girls, those are girls in Sri Lanka, and they're doing the same activity that you're about to do right now. They're drawing their customer. So just to give you some inspiration. So I'll give you about 3 to 5 minutes to draw, and then I'll ask for a few volunteers to share their drawings with everybody else. Before we do that, I'll see, are there any questions about this activity, what we're asking you to do? Well, it looks like a lot of you are ready. So I'm going to ask is for maybe 2 to 3 people if they're willing to share. either raise your hand so we can see, but I'd love for a couple folks to share their drawings, share their drawing of their customers, and also what your business is to everybody else. Oh, sorry, Linda Jackson. Yes, would you like to share? Oh, Linda, you're on mute.
There. All right. So my business is raising chickens to sell eggs. And my customer is kind of a mini customers. So it's a family. And I kind of think this could be the customer, or this could be the customer, or maybe these people are the customers, but principally focused on whoever it is that is responsible for preparing meals and responsible for nutrition for the family.
Awesome, great. Thank you for sharing. Love those the stick figures. Great. So your customer, you said, is whoever is responsible for kind of buying the food and maybe preparing the food. So really good characteristics to think about in your customer. And I see Yolanda. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Would you like to share?
That's right. So let me try to show the picture. Can you be able to see my pictures?
Sort of, yeah.
No?
Almost. Can you hold up your notebook again? Yes, I can see it. Yeah, it's very light, but I can see it. Mm-hmm.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, so light. So my picture here, it's about my customer. Is a working woman, age 30 to 45. They love fancy life, and possibly part of Africa and USA, and they have more disposable income. And I chose the jewelry, earrings, necklace, whatever business, selling of the gemstones. So yeah, that's working class women, 30 to 45, and they love fancy life. Thank you.
Great, thank you for sharing. And I think that I heard that you said that your customer was the working woman who has disposable income and would be interested in purchasing jewelry, right? That's what I heard. Again, very important characteristics that you identified for your customer. Thank you for sharing. That was lovely. Maybe one more person. Does someone else want to share their customer drawing with the rest of us? No one else?
Linda, I'll share. So
Great.
I drew, I don't know if it's visible.
Yes, we can see it.
All right. So my business is reusable cloth sanitary pads, and the age group of my customers are aged 10 through 50, menstruating people. They go to school, they go to work, they are leaders in their communities, they're entrepreneurs, they're a whole range of things, and they have some income and are looking to find solutions that can work for them and make the world a little bit better.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thanks, Heather. You're very thoughtful in identifying your customer. I think so. All of the things that you identified, Heather, and that all the other volunteers identified, those are the types of things that we would want the students in our program to kind of pull out, because those are the types of things that would go, as I mentioned before, the enterprise curriculum in that first year is about filling out a business plan. Filling out every session is a different piece of the business plan. So that session of understanding our customer they would have identified this is who our target audience or our target customers, and these are the characteristics, and we would have them write it down and include it in their business plan. So that's great that you are very thorough, Heather, in identifying who the demographics are of your customer. This is right. And because this information is going to be needed, right? Because for the next activity, so now we know who our customer is. Now we have to think about advertising and branding, right? So we know who our customer is, but how do we reach them? And so in this part of the activity, you're going to use that same business idea that you selected, right? Whether it's the raising the chickens, it's the jewelry making. So using that same business idea where you've identified your customer, now we want you to select a name. You have to have a company name, right? We need to know what your business or what your product is called. And so select a name for your business. And then we want you to draw a business logo, right? So how do we know, oh, that's the best company that sells the eggs that I want to buy? So what's your business logo? And then if you have time, try to figure out what your slogan or your tagline would be, right? So if I were raising chickens, maybe my tagline would be the healthiest, freshest eggs in town, right? That's my tagline. You can probably do something better than me, but that's just an example, right? So take some time. So choose a business name, draw your logo, what's going to look like, and then also try to figure out what your tagline or slogan will be. And when you're thinking about this, consider something that represents either your personal story, your product, your story, your unique point of view, or just something that's going to really grab those customers that you identified. So it would be attractive and appealing to them, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you about another 3 minutes or so to just individually work on your own. And then we'll come back and I'll ask for a few other folks to share. Hopefully a few other different folks who haven't yet shared. I'd love to kind of get some more voices in the room. So I'll give you 3 minutes. First, let me know, are there any questions? Is the activity clear? Sounds like we're all clear. All right, so get to work. You've got 3 minutes and I'll bring you all back and ask for some volunteers. Okay, so maybe take another minute to just wrap up. It's okay if you didn't hit all of these. We're just trying to get as much as we can get done, just to give you again a sense of the activities that we do with girls. So just try to wrap up. I'm really excited to see and hear what your business name is, your logos, and maybe what your slogan or tagline is. So just take maybe another 30 seconds to wrap up, and then again think about if you would like to share. I really would love to hear from other folks on this. Okay. Okay, so would anybody like to volunteer? Yes, I'm seeing. Debaduda, is that you? Would you like to share?
Hello, good morning, everyone. I took a while in at least drawing my thing fast. Then I moved fast and finished everything. I hope the child in me drew something a lot of to share. Okay, so okay, can you see this?
Yes, we can see it a little bit.
No, okay. Just a second.
Oh yeah, it looks like a cross of some sort.
Oh, okay. This is not very close to you.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe you can just describe it.
Well, let me just describe it. So what I did is this is a eating joint. Okay, I'm cooking food, and it is open for everyone. And my name, I just put the company name, business name under my name so that everybody will know who the owner is. It is Dash Cafe, and my tagline that reflects my inner thinking is be happy, live happy, and stay happy. And I checked all three of them because I mean it. So that's why whoever comes, they come happy and in whatever mood they are. But when they go back, they have to learn all these three, and they have to check mark in their life. So that is my point. Thank you.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love that. That was great. So I love that you said your business name it shows exactly who you are, and you're proud to put your own name on it. I think that's great, right? Because we all need to be able to recognize ourselves, right? So Dash Cafe, and I love that your tagline is be happy, live happy, and stay happy. I think that really represents a very strong, unique point of view, and that's really your philosophy, it sounds like, right? This is how you live by, and I think it's great that this is what you think is important, and that's what you're wanting to convey to your customers. I think a lot of customers would be happy to come to Dash Cafe. Wonderful. Thank you. I see Ronnie. Ronnie, would you like to share?
Sure. So I don't know how well you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I tried to draw the map of Guatemala. The name of the company is Guatemala Chula, and chula is a very Guatemalan word that means beautiful. And it's one of the first words that foreigners learn when they come to Guatemala. And the tagline is "Enjoy the best of Guate," which is also the short, happy name for Guatemala. And the business will be a customizable electronic magazine that would be branded for all of the. So if you have your own hotel or restaurant or tour company, your customers can get online and see a customized version of the magazine that will have the most relevant information for what's for them to do around the area where they're staying.
Oh, that's really wonderful, Ronnie. Thank you for sharing. I think you have a very sophisticated business idea that involves technology with digital magazines offering to customers. I love your logo and your tagline. I almost feel like maybe you've thought about this business in real life. It almost sounds like because you were very thoughtful about it. But thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Oh, it looks like Yolanda, you want to share again?
Yes, I can share again. So I hope you can be able to see a picture.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, so my company name I gave it Top Gem Jewelry, and the tagline is beauty redefined.
Nice. Did I hear it? Did you say beauty defined?
Beauty redefined.
Oh, redefined. Okay. Wow. That sounds like a lovely a name for a jewelry business. That sounds very enticing to me. I would want to buy jewelry as well from you. Anyone else? I just want to check before we let anybody else want to share their business name and logo. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. I think we're good. Wait, did I see another hand? No. Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing. I was so impressed by your businesses, your business names, and your creativity. And I think you really understood the idea of who your customer is and marketing to your customer. I hope that you have had fun doing these activities and that you've gotten a better sense of these are the exact same activities. Okay, not quite exact. We've modified them a little bit for a virtual format, but these are in fact the activities that we're doing in our enterprise curriculum. And actually, if you see that picture on this slide, it is a real photo again of girls in Sri Lanka doing the same activity that you just did, slightly different, where they had to vote in a group for their team name. And you can see here the girls are holding up the flip chart paper, and it looks like their winning name is called Looking Flora. And that's a name for a flower shop that they wanted to open. So I thank you so much for participating. Again, I hope you got a better sense of the activities that we do with girls and the way that we're approaching these different, sometimes complex financial topics, but in a way that we hope is a little bit more accessible and engaging and fun, and the way in which we're trying to build these financial literacy skills with girls. So as we're nearing the end of our session, I wanted to just share 2 example stories about how financial literacy has impacted girls in our program, girls who've been participating in Room to Read Spells project. And so the first is a very short video, just I think a minute and a half, from Fatma, who is a secondary school level girl in Tanzania. So she's been receiving the enterprise curriculum, talking again about what that program and what financial literacy has meant for her. So I'm going to play this and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound. I'm sorry.
Naitwa Fatna Salim, natokea shule ya sekondari Lugoba, ni mzaliwa wa kwanza katika familia yangu. Kabla ya kujiunga klabu ya elimu ya fedha na ujasiriamali, nilikuwa naona wafanyabiashara wadogo wadogo hawana faida na hawana lolote kwa kuwa hawakusoma na hawakuwa na elimu nzuri juu ya biashara zao. Hivyo basi nikaona napoteza muda mwingi kwa kutopata faida yoyote na nikaahidi kutokuwa mfanyabiashara. Pia kabla ya kujiunga na klabu ya elimu ya fedha na ujasiriamali, nilikuwa natumia fedha zangu vibaya, ambapo jambo hilo lilikuwa namkera hata mama yangu na kunikana juu ya fedha zangu. Baada ya kujiunga na klabu ya elimu ya fedha na ujasiriamali, niliweza kujua namna gani ya kupata masoko, kuwa na wazo la biashara na jinsi gani ya kuwapata wateja wangu. Mbinu hizo ziliwezesha kuwa na hamasa tena upya ya kuwa mfanyabiashara, kwa kuwa niliona kuna faida nyingi ndani yake, jambo ambalo lilinifurahisha na kuhamasika kuwafundisha wengine ni jinsi gani ya kutumia mbinu hizo ili kuwa mfanyabiashara mzuri na bora. Hivyo basi nawapenda kuwashukuru shirika la Mtuwili kwa kutuletea mradi huu wa elimu ya fedha na ujasiriamali. Asante.
So I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, I always think it's nice to hear directly from girls and in their own words, like what a program or what our support has meant to them and how they've been using this in their lives. And so I really appreciate, hearing the different types of skills that she was employing. And I really like that she said, I'm sharing that knowledge with others. So again, she's not keeping this information to herself, but this information, these skills are being passed on to those around her. So they're benefiting as well. And then the last story I wanted to share with you all is just a case story of Sachani from Sri Lanka. And she is a lower secondary school student who participates in our FELS program. So she is receiving the savings curriculum. And Sachani is 14 years old. She is the youngest of 5 siblings. And she actually is the only one of her siblings right now who currently goes to school. And her father is a paddy farmer. So her family is dependent on seasonal income. And her father and her family typically spends the money that they earn in that season when they earn it. So they don't save outside of that season. So her father, she has said, doesn't really have a habit of saving for the rest of the year. And with the COVID-19 lockdown, the pandemic has really exacerbated the family's financial situation. Because with the lockdown, because they're so dependent on the seasonal income, the family hasn't been able to sell the harvest that they have been able to collect because of things like business closures and curfews in place. So the businesses are closed and then they can't get to these businesses in time to sell them. And also because if businesses are closed, nobody wants to buy them anyway. And then they can't find, her father can't find other work as well because everything has been shut down. And her family actually takes on loans every harvest season, right before every harvest season. And so because they don't save, so they need to take on loans. And so they always plan to pay back the loan during the harvest season. But obviously, if they can't sell what they've harvested, they don't have income to pay back the loan. So they're just also in debt. And so the pandemic has really just worsened the financial strain that her family is facing. And so Sashini was really, she was really just bothered by this and seeing what a tough situation her family was in. She sprang into action. She told us that she reviewed the financial education knowledge that she learned through the FELS program. And with the support of her Room to Reach social mobilizer, which is a mentor in our program, began to apply her learnings at home to help cope. So she started tracking her family's expenses, and she's brainstormed with her family ways to reduce expenses and to start saving little by little. So this included things like, her family started planting a home garden of vegetables to further save on their expenses. And it was interesting because she told us, we're farmers by nature, but we haven't even made use of our own backyard, our own land, because they've always worked on other people's land. And so she said, that's a waste. And so now her family has that garden and they're tending to it. And her family is able to save a little bit more money because they don't have to purchase that food or those vegetables from the market themselves. And I just wanted to share that you can see in the photo this quote from Sachini, right? She says, even if we don't earn a lot, we can still save by managing our finances and expenses. That's something I learned from Room to Read's Girls Education Program, and I'm so proud of my efforts so far. And I think that's a very powerful and humbling statement, right? Because even in the pandemic, even when her family doesn't have a lot of means, she's saying, it doesn't matter. We can still, it makes a difference having these financial skills, right? We can still save and we can still manage, we can still get by. And what I think the cherry on top is this other quote from Sachini's mother that you can see at the bottom of the slide there. She told us, my daughter started maintaining a logbook of all of our household expenses and constantly reminds us to buy only what we need instead of what we want. My husband and I are slowly learning this habit now, thanks to my daughter. I mean, this is just that prime example of what we talked about, of the spillover effects, right? That we're seeing through the FELS program. It's not just the individual girl who's the FELS participant that is benefiting, but her family and those around her are benefiting, and it's actually making a difference. And so that's pretty amazing. And so we just wanted to share these different, stories, testimonials from girls, because it's really an inspiring reminder of just how essential financial literacy is, how it's such an essential life skill. These skills, like financial literacy, are helping her and her family weather the pandemic and other types of emergency that may come their way that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have been able to respond to or bounce back from if they didn't have this kind of financial education or these financial literacy skills. So it's just another reminder why investing in financial education for girls makes sense and is so important. So I think I'll end there with that. I hope you've been thoroughly engaged and inspired throughout this session. I'm going to turn it over to Maya and open it up for our Q&A session. I'm sure you have tons of questions, and we will try to answer as many as we can.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot and am indeed inspired by the video of Fatma and Satmi. You see that there is a clear opportunity here for young people, girls, to step into their leadership, to grow their capacity to impact others and take care of themselves. There is enormous creativity present in this room, evidenced by your wonderful pictures and plans. And that same creativity is, of course, present in so many girls around the world. And we would, be wasting all of that bounty if we, didn't help girls to access these points of financial literacy and develop the courage and the conviction to step into this role. So we have a number of questions here, and I'd like for you folks to please come off mute if possible to ask the questions yourself. The first person I'd like to call up is Rajinini, who has a question on digital platforms. Please come on.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was gonna say, this is Carl jumping in, sorry about that. The question is just, does any part of the curriculum talk about accessing digital platforms for financial services? And if so, like, what are those and what is being taught during those sessions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And at this time, our FELS program doesn't focus on kind of access to digital financial services. Not to say that we won't ever, but this was just kind of our initial first project phase, the first 3 years. And so we tested the curriculum-based and project-based program design. And also we wanted to keep in mind the realities of the girls that we work with. A lot of times people don't have access to things like the internet. It can be spotty, or even sometimes electricity is spotty. And so we wanted to be mindful of the kind of the context in which girls live and learn. And so we didn't prioritize having teaching around, accessing and using digital services, but it might be something that we can consider in the future. And maybe in those countries where that internet connectivity is a little bit stronger. But currently right now, that isn't a part of our design.
Thank you. And this next question was asked by more than one person. So Sharona, Yolanda. So the question is, do you have curriculum organizations can use? And is there a plan to establish more clubs in other countries?
Good question. Seems a very popular question. I'm going to turn this over to Heather first to see if she would like to say something on this piece, and then I can add. Heather, would you like to say something?
Sure, thanks, Linda. So we will be sharing a resource sheet that has curriculum that Room to Read and Aflatoon and Plan International are not the only organizations that have really fantastic curriculum. So the resource sheet has some access to curriculum that are available out there. We would love to do more of these types of clubs in other countries, and it will, as we look at resources, opportunities to partner with other organizations, as well as with looking at ministries of education to actually start to integrate some of this into their own space, and not just extracurricular, but curricular as well. We're really keen on finding those opportunities to do this in more places around the world. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The next question has also been asked by more than one person, Anne and Yolanda at the very least. Why did you choose for the sessions to be teacher-led rather than peer-led?
Okay, good question. And sorry, I actually think I didn't talk about it or emphasize it in the session itself. I talked about who delivers or who facilitates the session. And so in both countries, it's actually a mix. So we have paid facilitators that we've hired. We call them sales facilitators, who are hired particularly for this project. And they actually co-facilitate sessions together with school teachers in both Sri Lanka and Tanzania. They look slightly different in each country, but in general, they co-facilitate together. And so our teachers are trained on our curriculum, and they're given kind of regular routine monitoring and coaching throughout the year. And they in Sri Lanka, they formed teacher committees to meet regularly to talk about implementation challenges and to troubleshoot. And in Tanzania, the very same. They come to monthly review meetings with our staff to talk about, to share learnings and best practices, and to kind of get refresher trainings on other like facilitation skills. So we're definitely supporting our teachers to facilitate the sessions together with their staff. But again, the idea is that eventually maybe the teachers or the schools themselves will want to take this on, but we're just kind of building that capacity. And in the last year of our program design, year 3, if you might remember, I talked about it's girl-led. So the first 2 years, it's adult-led, where we're giving girls instruction and leading them through activities. And then by the 3rd year, we're actually training what we call peer educators or peer leaders, girls who kind of step up and say, I want to teach the same content to my younger peers, so girls in younger grades. And so that's what we're doing this year. And so those girls are delivering a simplified, modified version of those sessions that they receive themselves. So they're reteaching that back to their younger peers. And as part of that, the girls are also leading, as I mentioned in earlier slides, outreach to community members as well. So they're doing like poster campaigns and just teaching even community members some of the financial concepts that they learned. So it's a mix a little bit. So in the first 2 years of our design, it's teacher-led / adult-led, kind of co-facilitating together. And then the 3rd year, it's girl-led. And I should just say the reason for that is we wanted to build that local capacity, right? So by the end of the 3rd year, we feel like that girl now has enough knowledge, and we want to build her leadership skills and also build the local knowledge on financial literacy, so that so that information and that expertise stays within that school, stays within that community, and it's still there even if our project ends or Room to Read moves to another location. That information, that expertise lies with the people in that community still. So that's how we intentionally designed our project.
No, that's very thoughtful and pragmatic. Thank you. Catherine, you have a question. Would you like to come on video and ask it, or? I'm happy to as well. Catherine, are you there? All right, I will just ask this question. Other than market types of ideas, Do you have ideas that are more solution oriented with pitch day? Many startups in these areas of the world are male dominated. So how do we expand the girls' opportunity beyond marketplace type of businesses?
That's a really interesting question. So we don't have Beyond the Market Day and kind of Entrepreneur Camp. Probably Entrepreneur Camp is probably closer to what this person is asking, where they would have opportunities to kind of pitch or to meet with other entrepreneurs. But we don't, we're not just, two things. We're not just focused on kind of the financial aspects or these enterprise projects. A piece of it, which I didn't talk about so much, and it's more apparent in our younger curriculum than the older curriculum, is we're also encouraging girls to think of what we call social enterprise projects. So not just business enterprise, but social enterprise. And really what that means is like kind of community-oriented projects where they're doing cleanup or school beautification projects in their community. But we're really looking to girls to be really creative and thinking. So when we're talking about saving resources, we actually talk about not just monetary resources, but saving natural resources like saving electricity, because that can also cut down on like the expenses that you have at home, at the same time helping the planet. So we do have a little mix of like being a little bit more aware about the climate in our environment and how saving and reducing expenses can also help save the planet as well. And in turn, by the end of the year, they're also doing, some of the project groups decide to do more of a social enterprise project rather than a business enterprise project. So I just didn't have pictures of those, but that is something that we're encouraging our girls to do. And then in terms of pitching, we understand that, you know, business in general is dominated by men, particularly in some of these countries that we're working in. And so as part of our entrepreneur camp and other activities that we do in year two, again, year two, more project-based, we invite a lot of guest speakers in. So our entrepreneur camp is like a one whole day immersive experience. We're inviting a lot of entrepreneurs coming in, both male and female, and they're talking to the girls. And actually, I wouldn't call it pitching quite in the way that we understand it in Silicon Valley as a startup pitching, but they're sharing their potential entrepreneurs' ideas with these different business leaders. And then those business leaders are giving them advice and coaching on how they should be framing it, how they can be looking at it, how to play to their strengths. And so in some ways, there's a little bit of mentoring and coaching going on. Again, a slightly different angle than the startup pitch. And I think we're not there yet. Again, we're trying to be really cognizant of the environment that we're currently operating in. But yeah, so we have little elements of that sprinkled throughout our program and our design. But just as I said, again, not quite at the startup Silicon Valley level focus yet. And again, who knows? This is just our first phase of the pilot. We're entering into another 3-year phase starting next year. And so we may be improving and redesigning our program as we expand to other countries. And so it may look different. Yeah.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and ask Allison's question. Do you partner with government schools, and what kind of resistance or challenges have you faced in establishing the program?
Great. Heather, actually, I want to turn this one to you too. Maybe you can just speak in general first about, you know, how we work and the governments and schools that we work with. And then I'll add specifically if needed on the financial, on the FELS program piece.
Absolutely. Thanks, Linda. Yes, we do work with government schools, and that is something that Room to Read had made a decision early in our operations, that in order to look at strengthening systems, government school systems tend to be at a bigger scale than some of the other education systems. So that's where Room to Read focuses. In both Sri Lanka and Tanzania, we have country office colleagues who have lived and worked there, for some of them for many, many years. And that has made our negotiation with governments, doing memorandums of understanding, both at the national as well as local level, much easier. Not to say it's easy, but those professionals, it's part of their job to maintain those relationships with government counterparts. So that has proven really important to our ability to work within these schools and to build trust and to better understand what the limitations are, or what the sort of parameters are for us to work within the schools themselves. In the long run, this also offers a path to sustainability and to system reform. So that's why we take that approach.
Thanks, Heather. And just to add to that, specific to the FELS program, how we partner with the governments and if we've met any resistance, and I would actually say it's the opposite. where governments and schools are so eager for this kind of content and curriculum, because for them it's a little bit more tangible, I think, than say just our main life skills curriculum and girls education program. I think they understand finances and they want people to be able to be more financially literate. So we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm and cooperation from the government. And so we haven't really encountered resistance to it. And actually, as I said, the opposite, where they want us to do more. They want us to go to more schools and they want us to work with more teachers and actually want us to employ. So there's a strong demand for it. It's very popular. And so we know that this is something even parents, teachers, community members, like school board, like they're all on board because they can see kind of the benefits. And just like those pictures I showed you, it's just it's so tangible. You can see the outcome. Those projects are very colorful, market day events, the entrepreneurship camps, the presentations that they're doing in the community. It's just very visible and very exciting and engaging. And so it's something that we have come to find is very popular and actually has a lot of support across the board from a lot of different stakeholders.
Thank you so much for those informative answers. We've run out of time. Ronnie and Ann have questions about development of local facilitators experience, but let's save that for next session. Please now share in chat as we are closing something that you have taken away from the session, something that you've learned about financial literacy or that you wish to implement with the young people in your lives. I want to thank you as you are putting those answers in chat for being here today with us. Thank you also to the Room to Read and Girls Opportunity Alliance teams for this important session. This pandemic really has highlighted the importance of financial literacy, showing how unprepared many households were to lose income, and it has revealed how financial inequities go on to impact health, safety, and other metrics of a good and happy life. So all over the world, including the United States, families are still vulnerable, and too many are on the precipice of financial crisis, which of course impacts education as well as survival. So ensuring global girls and women understand these basics of personal finance and economics really is critical, especially since women and girls often look after their households, nourish their communities. Our investment in them is an investment in a more stable economic future for us all. Please take our survey that is in the chat now. Your feedback continues to be really important to us and will help us to craft next month's session as well, where we will dive deeper into this topic, hear from all of you more, and also a guest speaker. We are excited to continue delving into this space. You can find the PowerPoint and resource sheet from today's session in the Dropbox link in the chat coming now. You'll also be able to find the recording of this session here in a few days' time. Thank you all for joining us and for being part of our family, and we cannot wait to see you next month. Until then, take good care.